Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews, be sure to check out our show on YouTube. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
7 days to retirement, and I got busted to having to review Lethal Weapon 3. I'm Joe, and I think police brutality is kind of funny. And with me is Dave, and boy is he too old for this shit.
You're not kidding.
And this is episode 160, and in this episode, Mel Gibson is back. And this time, it's a little out of the wheelhouse, but we'll talk about it. The review for Fatman is out, and, it looks kind of interesting, and we'll talk about it. Spider-Man, the multiverse, is not a joke. Apparently, this is actually happening. What the hell? Let's talk about it. And Disney is pushing the idea of more movies to streaming and less movies in theaters. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to talk about it. And then David and I will review 1992's Lethal Weapon 3. And what's up, my partner?
This is going to be a tough week. I'm very curious to talk about the topics we're talking about, but I gotta tell you, like, the minute the credits started rolling on Lethal Weapon 3, I was like, this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be very, 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 very freaking hard.
Yes it is. Yes it is. Things are happening in this movie, and we'll talk about it, so let's get to it.
You just lost a big son, Fatman!
What's the job?
I'd like you to kill Santa Claus.
I'm looking for the Fat Man. You can't be serious.
Right, so as I was watching this trailer, at first, wasn't 100% sure what it was. It had that feeling at the beginning of, this old assassin coming out of retirement type thing. And then it reveals itself as a movie about Santa Claus not only working for the government, but has a hitman coming after him because he gave a kid a lump of coal. This is so insane that it's brilliant. I want to see this movie.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it's one of those where I was a little nervous. This is one of those where it was looking so good that the voice in the back of my head was like, "Don't get your hopes up too quick. Don't get your hopes up." But if this plays out the way I think it's going to, it really does have the potential to be the new, just greatest Christmas movie of all time. It does look funny, and I will say, honestly, I'm getting a tiny bit wary of Mel Gibson. I don't know if you saw his Dragged Across Concrete, and I shouldn't call it his. I think he was in it. I don't think he directed it. I'm 99% sure.
Not 100% sure either, but go on.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned a while back that some of these movies are getting a little violent for my taste. And again, I hate to sound like a
Get off my lawn.
but it's just some of it's kind of getting a little just So when I saw this, I was very tentatively excited, but again, that little voice is like, all right, just temper your expectations and let's just see.
Yeah. I feel you on that, and that was definitely your get off my lawn moment there. With all these movies are getting so violent. But
there's a certain kind of violence that bugs me, but that's for another day.
This, after the crazy ass year that we have just had, I could use a little, distracted insanity. And there's, maybe it might be violent, but there's an imagination to this. The idea of Santa Claus being this badass assassin versus Walton Goggins, just it appeals to me. I don't even care about the violence. I am so desensitized to violence. It's not even funny. So I'm not too worried about that. You just make it entertaining. Just make it entertaining. For God's sakes, there's an episode of The Boys that happens in season 2 where somebody right in the middle of talking, their head just explodes, and I laughed my head off.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh shoot!"
Yeah.
So we live in absurd times. I could use a little absurdity, and this feels like exactly the type of absurdity I want. Yeah, might it be over violent? Might be. Some people said that about Die Hard for its time. Oh God, now it's my turn for Get Off My Lawn. I'm just thinking about, my God, remember when Die Hard was considered violent? And like now it's like no problem, and now we're saying, "Well, Fatman, this is violent." What the hell is going to be like in 20 years?
Listen, I kind of feel like I sort of derailed the conversation a little bit because, again, I have no clue if it's nothing in it seemed violent to me. I mean, I saw, like I said, I just kind of I did have that kind of like, Mel Gibson makes me nervous kind of moment, which is sort of, you're absolutely right. It's bizarre coming from me because, I mean, like, there was probably no bigger Mel Gibson fan in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I don't mind raw and real. But like I said, there was just one or two things, and like I said, it's certain kinds of violence that gets me a little squeamish. But yeah. So, but anyway, and it's funny you brought up The Voice, because honestly, I think that's probably why I was a little hesitant at first to even get into that series, because the trailers looked awfully violent. And again, it's not the violence, but it's that certain bit of sadism. It's that kind of the sadistic sort of violence. You kind of get where I'm headed. Like it's the spirit. It's sort of the spirit behind the violence more than the violence itself. So sometimes it can get a little, like I said, it kind of creeps me out. But like, hey, look, I think so far this looks funny. I mean, seriously, when he said, "You think I got this job by being fat and jolly?" I mean, I was giggling throughout the whole thing. So if it's more of that, bring it on.
Seriously, I'm with you. It is written and directed by Isham and Ian Nelms. They have not done much before, but here's a funny little bit of coincidence. One of their first big screen movies was called Waffle Street, 2015. You know who starred in that one? Danny Glover.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get a cameo.
My name is Peter Parker. I'm pretty sure you know the rest. I saved the city, fell in love, then I saved the city again and again and again. Look, I'm a comic book, a cereal, I did a Christmas album, and a so-so popsicle. But this isn't about me. Not anymore.
Last week, I brought up the fact that Jamie Foxx was all but confirmed to be reprising his role of Electro in the upcoming MCU Spider-Man movie. I then reported a rumor about Dean DeHaan and Kirsten Dunst. Thank you. Returning as, the Green Goblin and Mary Jane Watson, respectively. Joe and I speculated about, are they actually thinking of doing a Spider-Verse movie? And we were like, no, it can't be. Well, Jamie Foxx was confirmed. They've mentioned no other things, but now there's talk that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in it as well. And let's not forget, good old Doctor Strange has been added to the cast, Benedict Cumberbatch. It's a frickin' Spider-Verse movie. And I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that, since they kind of already did a really good Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, they sure did. And how many times have we used the expression, Hollywood learns the wrong lessons? Yeah, I don't know. I you know what? Again, Kevin Feige hasn't done us wrong, but boy, does this just sound like fan service, the movie. Like just, and it was funny too, because I remember, I think it was, I guess it was after we recorded last week, and as this stuff was starting to brew, and once I heard that Doctor Strange was in the movie, that's when the little light bulb went on, and I went, "Oh, wait a second! His movie is called The Multiverse of Madness."
Correct.
So I'm guessing that starts the madness starts here in this movie, and I don't know. I'm not. I'm saying to myself, is there a way that this happens that doesn't sound horrible? Because I just feel like it's gonna be horrible. I don't. If this really is happening the way it sounds, I don't know. I mean, like you said, they did Spider-Verse already. Why do it again? I'm almost getting the vibe of like like the real life Disney redos, you know. I feel like we saw Beauty and the Beast as the animated and it was great, and now they're gonna redo it in real life, and why bother? And I feel like that's kind of exactly what they're doing with this. Like I said, I've been known to doubt before, and I've been proven wrong. I'm hoping that's what's happening here, but I don't know.
I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I really, really do not.
Yeah.
It's like there's only so much blind faith you can have in somebody. There's only so much. Yeah, Feige has done us right, but he's also had a couple of, not complete hits, a couple of missteps here and there. He's not always perfect. And honestly, it's one of the things I appreciate. He's not perfect, and he'll be the first to tell you, yeah, well, we could have done better here, we could have done better there. It's one of the many things I appreciate about him. If this is Spider-Verse, it to me, it is definitely an arrow to the knee in my perceived infallibility of Kevin Feige. I don't feel confident with this storyline at all. However, the Beyonder does come from a multiverse.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
so
yeah.
I have to throw that out there because I know that's the one thing you're looking forward to the most. And I'm like, Joe, I'm throwing some hope at you.
And I'll take it. I will certainly take it. I mean, there is a part of me that I feel like maybe if I'm Kevin Feige, I'm saying to myself, look, we did everything we ever could have hoped to have achieved. By the time we got to Avengers Endgame, we're done. I mean, we did it. We made a back-breaking flurry of films, and they all worked. They were all great. It all came together. And now you want an encore? Well, now we're just gonna go out and just start tap dancing. I got nothing for you. So we're just gonna go out and just have fun. Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I see happening with this. And by the way, I'm also wondering because I mean when you look at the lineup, the phase this is phase 4 lineup that we're that's coming down the pike. Chi-Chi and I mean like not much in there really made people go wow. There was a lot of just sort of stuff that so I'm kind of wondering like are they nervous now and now they got to come out with both barrels firing to try to get people back interested, and that could be what they're doing. It almost feels like panic move, but I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure either, man. The Phase 4 films are listed as Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man 3, Thor, and Doctor Strange, in that order. So...
Yeah.
Good luck!
So, yeah. Well, I tell you what, let's hope... I will take that little nugget you gave me, and maybe that's what you said, the Beyonder is a multiverse. You know what? Maybe that's it. Maybe this is how we open up the next big can of worms, and the Phase 5. Suddenly, we're going to see Fantastic Four, X-Men, and maybe that's how we just kind of get crazy again and new stuff. And fingers crossed. That's all I could say.
The wonderful world of Disney, part of your family for 25 years.
From the Walt Disney Company press release, October 12th, 2020. In light of the tremendous success achieved to date in the company's direct-to-consumer business and to further accelerate its DTC strategy, the Walt Disney Company today announced a strategic reorganization of its media and entertainment businesses. Under the new structure, Disney's world-class creative engines will focus on developing and producing original content for the company's streaming services as well as for legacy platforms, while distribution and commercialization activities will be centralized into a single global media and entertainment distribution organization. Disney just done gave up on films.
I was gonna say translated for English speaking people. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think this last week was a real blow to cinemas, and I don't know. I feel like I'm usually pretty optimistic. I don't know how they're gonna bounce back.
I'm unsure myself. AMC is running out of cash. AMC is running out of cash. Okay, they just announced that it was just revealed recently. This is an unfortunate side effect of the world as we are having it today. This follows on the heels that the next Pixar movie, Soul, which I was kind of liking the look of, is going to premiere on Disney Plus Christmas Day.
Ugh. I wish I could point fingers for, well, I mean, I certainly can, and I do frequently, but between the studios and the theaters, I kind of feel like I don't know who to point fingers at there. I feel like it's two sides of the coin trying to tread water in this environment that we're in. So yeah, I don't know if I should be angry at the studios for this, if I should be, I don't know. Well, and it's funny too, because like just yesterday, my girlfriend said to me, like, hey, let's go to a movie. We haven't gone to a movie in ages. And it was funny, and I was like, I've been wondering, like, what's even going on in the theaters around me. Some are closed. The bigger ones are open, and I looked to see what was playing, and it was like Tenet was still there, The New Mutants was still there, something I'd never heard of was playing, and then there were some oldies. They had like Harry Potter playing, so they're trying to do something just to stay in business, but they're fighting a losing battle.
This is kind of where most movie studios have been wanting to go. Sad to say, there's been a fight between the two of them ever since it was there. I don't remember when it happened, but I do remember that there was like an antitrust law of some sort put in place where movie studios could not own the theaters that showed the movies. Kind of a separation of church and state, whatever you want to look at it as, whatever the case may be. And because of that, the balance of power between the two had kind of shifted. The studios have been talking for a while about trying to get it back. That's why, as little as 2 or 3 years ago, there was talk of maybe like doing a video on demand service where for $50 you can watch the movie in the comfort of your home. And all the movie theaters cried foul, and they're like, "No, if you do that, we'll never show your movies again." In fact, one of the things I remember is when Universal released that stupid Trolls movie in the middle of the pandemic. It was supposed to come to theaters, but the theaters were closed. So it's like, screw it. They released it. One of the companies, I don't know if it was AMC or Lowe's, said, well, we're not going to show any Universal movies now. Okay. Hope that worked out for you.
I'm thinking we should cut the blue wire.
Hey, wait!
What?
That's not what I'm thinking.
What, do you think maybe the red?
No. I'm thinking that it's 8 minutes and 42 seconds. We can go upstairs, wait for the bomb squad, have a cappuccino.
Cutting the red wire, okay?
Help! Oh!
What?
A minute ago you said blue.
Nearly a catastrophe, huh? I'm cutting away. Snip. See? All done. Raj.
Yeah.
Grab the cat.
Grab the cat.
They're back. Lethal Weapon 3.
Martin Riggs and Roger Murtaugh pursue a former LAPD officer who uses his knowledge of police procedure and policies to steal and sell confiscated guns and ammunition to local street gangs. Christ, even that was a mouthful. Written by Jeffrey Baum and Robert Mark Kamen, based on a story by Jeffrey Baum, based on characters created by Shane Black, directed by Richard Donner. Lethal Weapon 3. In 1992, I was working at a Lowe's theater in Secaucus, New Jersey. And one of my duties, on top of cleaning out theaters when all y'all messy people used to throw popcorn on the floor and stuff like that, was every once in a while we'd get these, displays that had to be built. And I helped the manager build the display for Lethal Weapon 3. And it had this thing where there was Mel and there was Danny Glover. Everybody was excited to see that. And then that took maybe like 30 minutes to put together. But then we had to spend another 30 minutes putting together this weird device that, when we finally got it all together and plugged in, would just be Joe Pesci's head popping up between them and then going down. And then popping up between them and then going down. And back then, I remember looking at that thinking, is that really Lethal Weapon? 28 years later, watching it again this past week, I finally have an answer. No, it's not Lethal Weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time this movie wasn't serious, it was terrible. I'm sorry. I'm just going to come right out and say it. When it wasn't serious, like when my favorite scene in the movie is where Murtaugh is trying to get over killing that 15-year-old kid in self-defense. That was like my favorite part of the movie. Because that felt more like Lethal Weapon than anything else that happened in the movie. And that still sucked.
I'll tell you what, real quick. Well, it's funny you said it that way, because honestly, when you said everything that was not serious in the movie sucked, honestly, the first thing I thought of was, and the stuff that was supposed to be serious was even worse. Because honestly, you can't do these wildly contradicting tones. You just can't. And honestly, I forgot how much I hate this movie. But watching it again, I was like, wow, I think I hate it even more now than I hated it before. I hate this movie. I can't stand, honestly, I sort of feel like if I had to sort of just sum up in a sentence or two why, it's precisely that. It's this whole, it's full-blown slapstick comedy, and not even, I mean, what's in here is just awful. And this is, we said last week, we said a couple times, this was the introduction of Jeffrey Boehm doing the screenplay. Shane Black, I guess, again, I believe started it, probably the outline, and then Boehm comes in and sillies up the screenplay, and we kind of got this funky, mash of different things. But there was still enough Shane Black in Lethal Weapon 2 that you still kind of held on to the stuff that you liked. This is just, hey, random, this is, Shane Black is long gone now. Hey, random guy who does 80s, 90s action movies, come write a screenplay. And it's just so bland. I mean, it's there were tiny little glimmers of something good in here, but boy, is it just, like, they're few and far between. the crap that's in here. I mean, I literally wrote down 2 things that I like about the film. And I probably can't even say it because then I'll have nothing for my end, for your consideration. But honestly, I walked away with this feeling really nothing. I mean, it was almost like watching Mel Gibson and Danny Glover doing Saturday Night Live as their characters. It's like watching them, so like watching them in another show. Like, oh, I see it's them. They look like them. They're dressed like them. I get that they're the characters, but everything they're doing is wrong. I mean, even from the opening. I mean, like honestly, I kind of felt at times they were ad-libbing. Like I felt like the opening shot when they were walking into the building, they're sort of talking over each other. And I was like, I'm like, are they ad-libbing? Because I can't even really make out some of the things they're saying. And then at the end, they were sort of doing it too, where they were just sort of goofing around. And I honestly wondered, I'm like, is this ad-lib? It was pretty just awful. And that's just the fluff. That's just the kind of, incidentals. But the plot points, the things that happen in this film, I'm not kidding. Like Quantum of Solace, right? If you've ever heard me talk about Quantum, there's a couple things that are good. There's a couple things that are bad. But there's like one part in there that just like genuinely makes me angry. It's the scene where they take Mathis and they drop him in a dumpster after he gets killed. And it genuinely, like, I'm like, really? You went to the trouble to bring this character back just to kill him off, and then to add insult to injury, you're gonna have Bond dump him in an actual dumpster and leave. It's like, wow. It's like if you didn't catch on that we're disrespecting the character, let me drop him in the dumpster so you get it loud and clear. I mean, like, the movie's in trouble when I'm genuinely feeling like personally offended by something. Lethal Weapon 3 is 2 hours of that. It is literally 2 hours of me getting genuinely angry at things that I'm saying to myself, who wrote this crap? Like, I genuinely don't like this character anymore. And that takes work, but Bohm was willing to put the work in.
You have to almost admire the tenacity of sucking.
Right, seriously. Oh my God. I'll take a breath, please.
It's all right. It's all right, man. You got to let it out. And part of group therapy is you have to be able to let it out. Let it out.
This is true.
Okay. We mentioned, we alluded to, we didn't actually call it this, but we alluded to the fact that last week's movie was a precipice.
Yes.
And this is the jump. This is the jump, and the view from halfway down ain't pretty. There isn't really anything compelling in the villains. Leo Getz shows up like, sticking out like a sore thumb throughout this movie. Nothing against, the great Joe Pesci or anything like that. But I mean, from what I understand, they weren't even sure if Pesci was going to come back. So he originally wasn't supposed to be in the movie, but he wanted to come back. So they kind of shoehorned his character into the movie. That should tell you everything right there. We're in spoiler territory. So a couple of things I want to talk about in a positive. I kind of liked that the Captain Murphy, I kind of liked that he was actually semi-involved this time. Like he was in the gunfight and stuff like that. I like that. I thought that was nice. After 2 movies of being the stereotypical captain, like, you get out here, your badge is mine type thing, that was kind of nice. And I don't have a lot of complaints about Rene Russo's portrayal of Lorna. I just don't think she was given anything to do with it. The idea of her character was better than the execution, and after falling in love with her in the Thomas Crown Affair, I will forgive her for this movie because I truly don't think it's her fault.
I tell you what, I can't believe I'm not going to actually defend something here, but I think I'm gonna disagree with you there. I kind of felt like I thought it was an interesting idea to. I mean, I guess in every film we have to give Riggs a love interest now because I mean they're just sort of becoming more
Expendable.
generic. Well, I mean, I guess again, if you're gonna try to do something with him in that regard, why not pair him with somebody who's a little more his contemporary? I thought that was clever, and I did think they gave her enough to do. I mean, she had some full blown good fight scenes. I mean, the whole movie is schlock. So even the parts that she's in are pretty schlocky, but at least they put her in. I thought I did think they gave her enough to do.
Hmm. I felt like she wasn't. I felt like she wasn't as fleshed out as she could be. And again,
Hmm.
I'm not complaining about how she did. I thought she was fine.
Well, every
She did great in the
character
fight
is
scenes.
very stereo. Yeah, I mean every character here is thin. Every character in here is very stereotypical and corny. So I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that they gave her like a great character, but I just felt like I mean at least she had a little, I mean, screen time and she did stuff.
Yeah, I grant you that. I will grant you that.
Mm.
But and I'm gonna hate this. I hate doing this. I hate doing this when we're doing a series. But considering where things are gonna go next,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel as complete
Yeah.
of an introduction
Well,
to this character. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. No, that's true. And by the way, you mentioned again, you said that the second one was sort of like this turning point. I remember even again, I'm 17 years old when I saw Lethal Weapon in the theater, loved it. Read the novelization. That's how dorky I was. Novelizations of movies, you know. So I was anxious for the second one. And then when I saw the first poster for Lethal Weapon 2, the tagline was "The magic is back." And I remember back then going like, what? Like, what is it? Is this E.T. 2 or Lethal Weapon 2? I kind of felt like that didn't make already I was kind of getting the idea that they have a different idea of what this film is than I do. And sure enough, like you said, we started to get the first hints at where they were headed. And yeah, this was the full blown now. This is strictly action comedy junk. When you talked about the boss being a little more involved, I like where you're headed with that. I didn't like it though, and it's not. I liked that they gave him more to do, that he was involved, but I was really feeling like again there's like this school somewhere, the 80s 90s action movie script writing school, and I feel like it's the same cliches in every one. At some point, the boss has to get kidnapped. Lethal Weapon 3. Beverly Hills Cop 3, the Bond movie, The World Is Not Enough, was right around this era, and one of my complaints about that movie is that it has that 80s 90s action movie scripty feel to it. Sure enough, the boss gets kidnapped. It's like it was a very cliche standard thing at that point, so it was kind of like, oh, here we go with that. Yeah, I just doesn't do much for me.
The worst type of cookie cutter is what this movie is.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote this down about halfway during the movie. Scenes flow together with the thinnest of strings, as though someone thought, wouldn't it be cool if, and then they just tried to connect it. No consistency in tone or plot. I want that on the side of the DVD box for this movie, please.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all true. I mean, I might as well get to the stuff that just really irks the shit out of me, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
go for it. We're well in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I mean, again, first of all, we've covered the fact that I think it's poorly written. I think it's again, the tone is terrible. Even the look of the film is pretty bland. In fact, I remember like Lethal Weapon, like in each film, you're sort of looking in the background of the police station, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember Lethal Weapon 2 that the actual office looked a little too nice. I thought like there was like some open brick, and I think there was like just some plants around. So I kind of felt like it kind of had a pretty comfortable feel to it. I kind of felt like it was almost maybe like a little too comfortable, like a police station wouldn't look like that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden here, I remember looking around and thinking that, boy, does this building just look bland. Like they just got like there was no real set design happening. They just got a random office building and said, we're going to shoot here. And they just plunked down the camera and they started rolling. But it's the parts when, again, Riggs, I hate to say it, just acts like a complete asshole. I mean, it's shocking just how often, like, there's scenes in this movie where Riggs and Roger just kind of shooting the shit, and then all of a sudden something happens, and Riggs goes off on his own and pulls out his gun, and it's like, hey, that's not what cops do. You're not supposed to do that. And then all of a sudden, like, shit goes down, and Roger's like, what's going on? What's going on? You're gonna get your partner killed doing dumb shit like that. But it starts in the beginning. It's, I mean, him going in and just starting to snip wires on the bomb. Like, again, in a comedy, whatever, who cares? But I thought this was a reasonably realistic cop movie. So I mean, like, already I was like, this is, I like, it was like, I mean, I will say this in its defense, at least they tell you in the beginning what you're in for. I kind of felt like that scene, the way it plays out, it's like, all right, this is going to be 2 hours of just schlock, silly nonsense.
Grab the cat.
Yeah, come on. Like, it's so weird. And why even have the cat there just so you can have Murtaugh running out with this, holding this thing that obviously looks like a fake cat? It was just looks stupid. Then, you know, they get busted down to patrol duty, and I'm like, why would that be? And why are they still working on the same, like, why are they working on the same cases if they're doing patrol duty? They put them in, like, again, just because, hey, here's something we haven't done yet. Let's have the two of them actually walking around in cop uniforms. That'll be funny, right? But they're still, again, they're like, there's a scene where Riggs is demonstrating the cop killer bullets to the other detectives. Well, why, if you literally got knocked down for being a detective, why are you even doing that? And I mean, and I'll get to it. The scene you mentioned where Riggs just kind of goes off, sees a couple kids making trouble, and he just pulls his gun out. And it's like, really? And what burns my ass about that scene, like, literally makes me angry, is that you walked in there doing something colossally stupid. Roger has to run in and save you because you're so dumb. He ends up shooting that, like you said, the 15-year-old kid. And I'm like, no, you cannot take this silly slapstick borderline airplane movie. I mean, this is like a Zucker movie. This is getting so silly. Now suddenly we're going to get into real life stuff where Murtaugh has to kill this kid, has to deal with real emotions. Like, I mean, he's literally like goes off and drinks himself into a stupor because of what he did. Like, are you joking? And where's when after the, like, Roger kills the kid, and all of a sudden, like, he just sort of disappears for a while Riggs is kind of off working with Lorna now, with Lorna Cole. Like, all of a sudden now she's his new partner. And of course, like, then they fool around, they have sex and whatever. And then, like, later on, it's like, yeah, maybe I better check out my partner who I left, you know, in a pit of hell because he murdered a 15-year-old kid. Like, I'm like, no, absolutely, positively not. I mean, and let me say, there's a scene where he harasses a jaywalker, pulls a gun on him, and then they're laughing. I'm like, I mean, and this is right around the time, by the way, where like kind of not like unlike right now where police brutality was like on the tip of everyone's tongue. Like, this was not too far off of like the Rodney King and all that stuff. So yeah, the fact that they're joking around about this, and again, I'm not even trying to get political. I'm not even trying to say that whatever. But again, this movie is like laughing in the face of real life events, and it's like I mean, I was so turned off by this movie. I'll take a breath now.
That's the second time you've had to take a breath.
Can you tell I don't like this one?
Really? No, I'm not getting it. But just for the record, the beating of Rodney King was March 3rd, 1991. This movie came out I want to say summer of 1992. Yeah, May
Hmm.
19th, 1992. Good timing, guys. Good
Yeah.
timing.
Yep.
Love
Yeah.
that. Good stuff.
I mean, even without that, I mean, I still would have been just. I mean, I watch it today, and I'm just like, boy, talk about being tone deaf, guys. I mean, this was just ridiculous.
First of all, just for the record, the cinematographer was Jan de Bont. He of Speed, Twister directing. You know that guy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So you were complaining about the cinematography. It's like that's why it looks so bright, because Jan de Bont definitely has this thing with his field of view and everything like that. But that
Mm.
aside, it's funny that I was trying to look up interesting things about this movie. It's like, maybe there's something trivia wise that might explain this. And I mentioned for example earlier about how they didn't know if they were going to get Pesci back, and they literally wrote the script as they were going when they realized he was going to be available. I just kind of shoehorned him in. I find this to be an interesting piece of trivia. Okay, by mistake, movie posters were sent out for this movie, and the writing credits were credited as screenplay by Jeffrey Baum and Robert Mark Kamen. If you have that poster, you're freaking rich, because the Writers Guild made them recall them and correct it, because the writing credits are supposed to read. You ready for this?
Mm.
The writing credits are supposed to read screenplay by Jeffrey Baum and Robert Mark Kamen.
And I'm gonna guess one of those ands is AND and the other one is an ampersand.
Correctamundo, my friend.
That's how you know your movie geekdom is really kind of hit heights.
Oh my! I saw that bit of trivia and I'm like staring at it. It's like, what the hell kind of narcissistic, idiotic bullcrap is this? How do you get your name twice on a screenplay? Did you clone yourself? Is that it? Did you clone yourself? And did you sit there and snort coke while watching this movie? Because this feels like a bad drug binge written movie. There is not a part of this movie that was memorable to me. Like, even as I was watching Lethal Weapon 2, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this scene. That's cool. Oh yeah, I remember that scene. That's cool. The surfboard thing's a little crazy. As I started watching this movie, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It opens with the bomb and the cat. Oh yeah, that's right. The big thing at the end. Actually, I'm gonna give the movie one last bit of credit again. Okay, as I have for the previous movies, I really dig the practical effects that they use. I like the fact that at the end of the movie, when they're burning down this development area, hey, they're actually burning down a large set. Thank you. That looked awesome. But I mean, it's still not the sum of its parts. It's still a piece of crap getting there.
Yeah.
You don't have a compelling villain. You don't know. How do you not know what to do with these characters? How do you not build on this whole thing? Roger, it got to the point that every time Roger said, I've got X amount of days left, I was like, all right, I get it. Shut the frick up, you son of... Just retire. Just retire. We all know that by the end of the movie, something's going to change your mind. So your little countdown here is as empty as my popcorn bowl.
Yeah. Right. I mean, don't you think if you were 5 days away from retirement and you were a police officer, don't you think you'd be doing a lot more things at your desk? Like you wouldn't be out like hip deep in active investigations. You might just chill out a little bit. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Good Lord. And I feel like there's still so much we haven't even talked about. Like the fact
we got time. Go for it.
I mean, the fact that they gave Joe Pesci like a blonde crew cut, I'm like you might at this point just give him a mohawk, and give him like a horn, and I mean, it's just the whole thing is just so dumb. Like every corny cliche is here. Yeah, I don't. I just, oh well, good lord, do I just really not like this movie? The part when Riggs goes in and to try and the dog, and he gets on all fours and starts making dog faces and dog noises. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? Like, is it, I mean, like, did somebody really sit there and say, oh, this will be really funny, this will be really good? It's, oh, good lord, oh, I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. And this is why, by the way, I mean, when people, I know a lot of people like The Last Crusade even more than Raiders. Honestly, I feel like the the pairing of Raiders and Last Crusade is very similar to my feeling of the original Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 3. Where somebody just decided, like, I can't write compelling dialogue, I can't write a really good movie, but I could write jokes, I could write little ha-has, so I'll just do that for 2 hours. And that's what this is. And oh, but I gotta have a little serious twist where something happens. Oh, let me have Murtaugh shoot a kid. Like, oh, good lord. Like, I really can't even think of anything to compare this to, frankly. I mean, like, it just, all of a sudden the movie just completely changes gear and becomes like this drama, and it's like, no, you can't do that at this point in the movie. I mean, that's literally 45 minutes into it. It's just terrible.
Is there anything else you would like to add? You know why? Because I feel like we've gone, into a bit of a circle, a kind of a circle jerk on this one.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad or anything like that, but I want to make sure that there is nothing else you want to make sure you call out, because I kind of feel spent. I kind of feel like I've said everything that is worth saying about this movie thus far, and I want to make sure. We have a couple of minutes left before we have to get the score. I want to make sure you've got everything out of your system. Just do it, man. This is for posterity. This is your last chance to let the whole world know what a shit show this movie is. So please, spare no expense, leave no prisoners, leave no man behind. Joseph Darlington, my friend, my brother, finish it.
The chubby black lady in the armored car. that's my last little cherry on top. I remember watching it and seeing that, and like that, and that's what this movie is. Yes. Wait, come on, sugar, come on, give me some love, sugar. While in the middle of the car chase. Yeah. All right. Come on.
Hiya, Hubie. Hey, we're looking for a friend of yours. His name's Travis.
Hell, I never heard of him.
Wrong answer.
Wait, I'll leave my car here and I'll come with you.
No, you're not coming with us.
Yes, I am. All right, I'll take my car then.
No, you're
yes,
not.
I am. I can't believe you did that. I got a spare in the trunk. I'll fix you. They're my partners. I can't believe they did that.
Here's the right to remain silent.
Freeze, police.
I want you to see something, Rod. She has a gift. Watch this. Hey, you okay, honey?
I just ran.
Hey, Riggs, it's 5 of them, man.
Yeah, I know. My girl. I never made it with another sergeant before.
Shut up, Riggs. Hello, car 54, where are you?
The only thing they do contribute is mayhem and chaos.
Joe, Lethal Weapon, scale of 1 to 10. Show us on the doll where it touched you.
I will say this one is a tough one to score because, again, yeah, I mean, like, on one hand, if you're just, Joe Popcorn, give me an entertaining movie, hey, those Lethal Weapon movies, aren't they supposed to be funny? Let's go see. I guess you'll probably be fine. I mean, certainly there's a lot worse action movies than this. It does try to deliver. The two actors look fine. I mean, they're doing what they can with this. On the other hand, yeah, there is shit in here that gets me so angry that it literally makes me want to go into negative numbers. But I think I'll just, and ironically enough, the funny part in all this is that it still gets worse. It still has yet to get worse. I think I'll give Lethal Weapon 3 a 3. It's reasonably competently done, But boy, the guy who wrote the screenplay for this should just be strung up by his ankles, and that's all I'll say.
You'll be happy to know that Jeffrey Baum has actually been dead for several years.
Oh, well, I'm not gonna. I'll
Not,
just say,
not,
didn't know that.
not gonna speak ill of the dead.
I will not. I will
think you
not
just
not
did.
tap dance on. Yeah.
Yeah, he died the day before my birthday, in the year 2000. So, early birthday present.
Yeah. I was gonna take the high road too, but
Look, here's the thing about Jeffrey Baum. He actually wrote one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations of all time, the original Dead Zone, with Christopher Walken in 1983. Okay. He also wrote The Lost Boys and Inner Space, and those two are kind of guilty pleasures of mine. So it's not like the guy didn't have writing ability. I shouldn't really like slam on him too much. The fact of the matter is that when you're writing for a Shane Black project, it takes a special kind of nut to get a Shane Black project. Because that man is just next level when it comes to his thoughts and ideals. Okay? That's why when Shane Black does a good flick, it's a good flick. But Jeffrey Baum does not have that luxury. I gave this movie a 2. And I deducted a point because I kind of feel like giving Lethal Weapon 2 an 8 last week was generous, considering how that movie was the jumping off point for this movie. We mentioned it several times last week when we talked about the movie. And all of the elements in that movie that we were just kind of mixed on are on display here, like in the front. Like in the second one, at least it was sort of relatively to the side. You know, at least they were trying to make the whole plot work together. There is no such pretense in this movie. This movie is not trying to be a serious cop movie anymore. And that was the thing about the first Lethal Weapon that worked. It was a serious cop movie. You want to talk about symbolism for how people in charge of making this movie viewed this series? Do you remember The Shrink from the first movie?
Yeah.
How she was an important character and a character that was taken seriously because what was happening to Riggs was a serious thing. And now you see her make an appearance in this movie and she's a joke. Like, she is literally the brunt of the jokes. Not even just like from the second one where he was just being, you know, a little bit silly, but like, no, seriously, I'm okay. Everything's fine. You know, like just, you know, oh, it's the Shrink. Just don't worry. You know, it's like it's like they're trying to say, like, the first movie was almost courageous enough in the 80s to be able to say, you know what? It's okay to need help from a professional. And by this movie, it's like, we don't need no help from no professionals. We're men. We can get over this ourselves. We just need to fight by the boat and drink alcohol and we'll be fine. It's like, it lost the personality that made these two characters so compelling. And you're right. It gets worse. And we have to frickin' review that next week because we are frickin' masochists.
I know I said this last week when I said, boy, it's funny. I mean, I've seen the first one plenty of times. I could probably recite the first one. Second one, enjoyed it thoroughly. Not perfect, but certainly enjoyed it. And I haven't seen 3 or 4 in ages. I think I think 3 was the last one I saw in the theater, and I think I was so turned off by it that when 4 came out, and just by the marketing for it, I'm like, I'm not gonna like this, and I didn't even bother. And I eventually saw it months after it was out on Blu-ray or on DVD. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I can't believe this movie's out, and I still haven't even bothered to see it yet. Like after the first one, I would have like just tripped over myself to see it. And then I saw it once. I'm like, okay, I at least I can say that I got it over with and it's done. But anyway, I'm skipping ahead now. Where were we?
It's almost over. Weirdly, here's a funny little thing. I want to reverse it this week, if that's all right with you. I'd like to start with For Your Consideration because I feel like that's not going to take long, and I'd really like to end it. After this movie insulted our intelligence and our fandom of this movie, I want to end it by really turning the screws on it by ending it with Who Asked You, if that's all right with you, Joe.
It's fine by me, brother.
So, For Your Consideration, this is what I wrote. I kind of like the addition of Rene Russo. That's it. That's all I wrote.
All right. I have two points in there, real small. And by the way, I have to start by saying I can't believe I let this go last week. Well, you want to hear? Ask me what the most nitpicky costume commander thing I could ever say.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the most nitpicky costume commander thing you could ever say?
In Lethal Weapon 2, Riggs' hair was about an inch or two too short. Kind of bugged me.
Ladies and gentlemen,
yes,
I want to explain that when we record these shows, Joe is in New Jersey. I am in Washington State. I have never wanted to reach out and slap a human being as much as I want to do now. You are lucky for that 3,000 miles, sir.
Well, I mean, I always felt like they were kind of in a rush to start filming, and not only was the hair too short, but there was actually a scene or two where I felt like Mel Gibson had a cold. Like he's talking like he's very nasal, and he's obviously stuffed up, and he's talking like he's got a cold. So I kind of was like, oh my god, I guess they were kind of in a rush. But yeah, it did always bug me that they never quite got they should have let his hair grow. So with that in mind, I did feel that at least the look of the characters and Riggs the hair was back to the length it should have been. Frankly, I felt like, I mean, again, weirdly nitpicky, but still kind of, I was happy to see that the hair was the right length. And it was interesting to me that they actually pulled out some of the actual literal costumes he wore in the first one. Like that same red shirt, the same jacket with the white Henley underneath it. I remember thinking like, well, that's an interesting thing to do. Like you're kind of suggesting that he still has those same clothes. So anyway, so props for at least getting the look of the actors correct.
That was the most passive-aggressive For Your Consideration I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I do have one more. I will say that
oblige me.
Yeah. The score was good, and specifically there was that action beat that they did during the last big gunfight. I kind of felt like they were starting to recycle that one piece again. We saw it again in Lethal Weapon 2 for the tow truck scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was from the first one. So I was glad that they kind of like, okay, we need some fresh stuff. So I thought what they did here was good. I don't know that the scene required such a pounding score for that. The scene was just okay. And again, kind of erred on the side of a lot of silliness, but that's that. Oh, and by the way, there was a young cop killed off in that scene, and that pissed me off too. So that's as good as I got.
I'm kind of flabbergasted. Are you sure that wasn't your Who Asked You? Because Who Asked You? You know what? No,
am I gonna go?
No, I'm gonna go first.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go first. You have been like a chatty catty, and I don't.
I sure have. I certainly have.
This movie obviously touched you in your no spot. So I definitely want you to have the final say on this movie. You've earned it, as far as I'm concerned. For Who Asked You, the first was, hey, maybe stick to police stuff. The second was the line I read earlier about how, there's no consistency or tone or plot. But the thing that really irked me, more than anything else, was the glasses come off the dead kid. Murdoch says, bleep, it's Daryl. And I said, who? This was supposed to be some big damn thing that took Roger down this dark little path where he's drinking on his damn boat. And I thought back and I wound up rewinding back and it's like, oh yeah, that guy. They introduced him for all of 5 seconds, made sure, oh shoot, it's your dad, and he takes his glasses down for that moment that he sees his dad. This gangbanger takes his glasses down so we can see his face. It's like, well, there's freaking Chekhov's gang member, and that was done so damn poorly. You could have that could have been a great little emotional bit of change and growth, sort of twisting the thing around where now Riggs has to save Murtaugh from self-destruction, whereas in the first two it was more like Murtaugh was trying to save Riggs from his self-destruction. That could have been a great little thing, and you screwed it up.
Yeah. Yes, you are 1000% correct, and frankly, I feel like at the risk of not learning my lesson, it's kind of not too dissimilar from the complaint I had last week about too many black guys with mustaches. I said, the guy, you had this other cop who had a mustache just like Murtaugh's. They looked exactly the same. So when the cop got killed, I thought that was Murtaugh getting killed. Right. So here I totally sympathize with what you're saying. I felt like it took me 1 or 2 viewings of this movie to actually get what was happening. I don't think I put it together the first time I saw it either. Yeah, that very quick thing they do in the beginning ain't enough. I mean, if they were smart, they would have had like maybe the kid was there talking to his son a little longer. There was a little more conversation, so we know who this kid is. Maybe he's got a tattoo somewhere that he's showing off. And that when Murtaugh sees the kid, he pulls the shirt down and there's the tattoo. So we go, oh, that's that kid.
Yeah.
Right. Right. That was very poorly done, and I completely agree.
And they have a whole scene of Boys to Men singing a song to this kid. Like this is the most important part of the movie. And Riggs gets slapped. Murtaugh gets slapped by the mother, and the father's like, you find the person that put the gun in his hand. It's like, you find the person that put the gun in his hand? Yeah, I agree with you. But how about taking a little responsibility for the fact that he freaking pulled the goddamn trigger? Absolutely, I'm behind that. Whoever's illegal selling guns of that type in the street, go kick their freaking ass. But like, what a way to absolve yourself of any responsibility of the fact that he had the gun in his hand in the first place.
Yeah. Yep.
Terribly plotted.
Yes. Yeah, well, right. Yes. And what you're talking about, by the way, again, is like you are injecting your real life, views on this, which we shouldn't be doing for a movie that up until now has been nothing but lighthearted fun. Yeah, definitely. And by the way, I might as well tell you that you're pretty much hitting on my exact who asked you. Frankly, it's kind of twofold. It is, one is that you've literally turned Riggs into a complete asshole. Mm-hmm. Like, again, the first one, he was down, he was borderline suicidal, so he was this kind of wild man. In the second one, like we said, I said they seem to want to keep the sort of character arc flowing, so he's a little happier, but he's still this kind of adrenaline junkie. Okay, here they literally just make him a complete jerk. I mean, everything he does in this movie is wrong. It is stupid. It is selfish. He puts other people at risk constantly. I mean, he literally pulls that jaywalker over and points a gun at him just for a goof. I mean, this movie is absolute insanity. So yes, once they got to that scene where Murtaugh shot the kid, because again, Riggs just runs into trouble with his with gun drawn. And Murtaugh is the one who had to bear the brunt of what happened. And like you said, yeah, then they show this funeral later with this music that is, again, now I'm in a totally different movie at this point. Like, I feel like this is like Boys in the Hood. Like this is what a funeral scene would have been in there. I mean, just what the hell were they thinking? And I mean, like, to the point where I'm genuinely like I said 5 times already, like just shocked at how terrible this was and how just annoyed I was with the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, it took 2 characters that I've really grown fond of, and you've totally, one turned into a complete asshole, and one you ran through the ringer because the other guy's an asshole. So, and I probably used my quotient of asshole for this one too, by the way. So I'm sorry.
Joe, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Thank you.
It's not your fault.
Oh, by the way, when Riggs goes to see Murtaugh on the boat, he's still an asshole. There's a part when Murtaugh is taking swings at Riggs, and Riggs starts doing the karate moves on him, and at one point he punches him in the stomach. I'm like, you know what? I'm so done with this movie.
Oh my God. Oh,
but his hair looks good.
Hello, car 54, where are you?
The only thing they do contribute is mayhem and chaos.
No, I'm chaos and he's mayhem. You have the right to remain unconscious. Anything you say ain't gonna be much. Back to bed.
And thus ends the assassination of Lethal Weapon 3. I think we did a good job of killing it and raping its corpse.
I think we've been clear, on how we feel about this one.
Yeah, pretty much. There's not a piece left. Not a piece. Not one tiny little piece. The Nazis weren't that efficient at getting rid of the bodies from the Holocaust as we have been in destroying this movie, I feel.
Mm.
But you know what? We are just dumb sons bitches. Because we're coming back for more, ladies and gentlemen. Next week. I hate you, Joe. Lethal Weapon 4. Ah!
It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe after this week we're actually going into a film that's worse, but we'll talk about it.
Oh my God. I don't even know what's next on the schedule, but I can't wait for it. I really can't. I don't care what it is at this point. It's like, what's that? We're gonna watch that movie Ass from the movie Idiocracy? Thank God! Oh, so until next week, my brother in masochism, and please get therapy. Great show, actually, though. I kind of like it when we don't like the movie. I feel there's a hell of a lot more fire and brimstone from us than when we do like it.
Hey, very true, very true. Gushing is, it's 2 hours of sweetness. No, it's nice when you're poking, when you're putting pins in the voodoo doll.
That's a great way of putting it, sir. I like that. Right? Well, then you have a good one, my friend, my brother.
All right, brother. Good one again, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode, and be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon. You can find our page on patreon.com/reviewswithoutremorse, one word. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are for commentary and critique and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.